So yes, welcome to Beyond Appointments, using content to expand to expand career center access and impact. Career centers are being asked to serve more students, deliver better outcomes, improve impact without additional time or resources. But here's the reality. The traditional appointments models does not scale. So what happens next, right? So in this session with Nikki Pebbles, right, career coach and learning and development specialist at Career Clicks Coaching and Consulting, joins myself, Leander Howard II, co-founder and CMO of WriteSea, to explore how career centers can evolve into content-driven ecosystems that extend their reach far beyond one-to-one interactions, right? So drawing on real practitioner experience, Nikki will share how teams are using on-demand content, podcasts, and student-generated stories to make career support more accessible, relatable, and scalable without requiring a marketing background or adding burnout, right? This isn't theory. This is what's actually working. We'll explore why the appointment model is limiting career centers' scalability, how to use content to reach more students without increasing workload, practical ways to leverage podcasts, short form content, and student voices, how advisors can become trusted, scalable resources for guidance, and then simple systems to build sustainable content without a marketing team. So, welcome, Nikki. Thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me. We're going to be going through a lot today, so I'm very excited.
Yeah, I gave a brief bio, but most definitely want to give you a full bio. So, Nikki Pebbles is a career coach and learning and development specialist at Career Clicks Coaching and Consulting, where she helps career services teams expand their reach and impact through content-driven strategies. Okay. With a practitioner background in higher education and professional development, Nikki focuses on translating career expertise into accessible, student-centered content that scales beyond traditional one-to-one advising. Her work centers on helping institutions build sustainable content ecosystems, leveraging tools like on-demand resources, podcasts, and student storytelling to increase engagement, improve access, and drive more equitable outcomes. Nikki is passionate about sharing practical, real-world approaches that teams can implement without adding workload or requiring a marketing background. And Nikki, I'm going to be honest, I was excited about this webinar today because of your philosophy, what you're passionate about, right? I'm really passionate about workflows, and I'm really passionate about strategies and frameworks to help people kind of guide them into executing their work. Because I feel like a lot of people want structured advice, right? Not just um scattered advice, right? To where I need a formula to follow on a day-to-day basis to actually to achieve the goals that I'm looking to achieve. So I was very excited about, hearing your strategies today. We'll dive right into it. And
Yep.
if you don't know who I am, I'm Leander Howard II, co-founder and CMO of WriteSea. I started my career off at Adobe working as a financial analyst. I started my first company back in 2020 called Spark Your Resume. That's how I kind of got my foot into career services. And then while I was at Georgia State University, I interned at Wells Fargo, Arthur Blanks Foundation, and then got my first offer at Adobe, worked as a financial analyst there, and then co-founded WriteSea March of 2022. Now I want to just get to know a little bit more about who's in the room. So if you can answer a few poll questions for us before we begin the fireside chat, I would greatly appreciate it. So the first question is, what describes your role in higher education? Are you faculty, career services, employer relations, university administrator, or other? If you're other, please drop your title in the chat, please. And I would appreciate everybody's participation in this. That was greatly appreciated. The next question is, how confident are you that your institution is effectively tracking student career readiness today, right? Is it very confident, somewhat confident, not confident at all? Are we currently don't we're currently not tracking this? Which of these risks is your institution most concerned about? Low job placement rates, declining employer engagement, dissatisfied alumni, negative student outcomes, or all of the above? What percentage of your student population actively engages with career services? 75% to 100%, 50 to 75%, 25 to 50%, or less than 25%. How are students primarily receiving career support today? One-to-one appointments, workshops, events, static online resources, scalable digital tools. How much visibility do you have into individual career readiness progress? Is it full visibility? Is it partial, very limited, or no visibility at all? And then what are you currently using to measure success? Is it first destination surveys, engagement, skill readiness based metrics, or no consistent measurements? Do you feel your current team can effectively support all students who need career guidance? And this is one that we get a lot of like 50-50 answers with because depending on how, big the career services team is, um, they really don't think they can, handle that manpower. And which best describes your biggest challenge today? We can't scale support to all students. We lack visibility into student readiness. We have data, but it's not actionable. We're still defining our strategy. And then last but not least, I always ask, like, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? My favorite is chocolate chip cookie dough. I'm a big chocolate chip cookie dough fan. If you want to make Leander happy, send me some chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream. All right. And I'll forever love you. Give it a few more minutes to complete the poll. Strawberry, okay.
I'm controversial. I love mint chocolate chip ice cream. I know that's a controversial take because I know a lot of people don't like mint chocolate chip, but
Nah, mint chocolate chip is
I
pretty good
stand
though.
by it.
That's the hill you die on, huh? Mint
It's a
chocolate
hill
chip.
I will die on. I love a good mint chocolate chip ice cream.
Mint chocolate chip is pretty good. I think chocolate chip cookie dough is just a little bit better though. I can't. I just like cookies and ice cream. Like I
Yeah,
just a perfect blend
yeah.
together.
I do love strawberry cheesecake as well. I know Kim just said strawberry. I do
Okay.
love strawberry cheesecake. That is very delicious as well.
Vegan ice cream. I've actually never had vegan ice cream. That's crazy. Okay. Like, is it just? Is vegan Jennifer? Is vegan ice cream like just in regular grocery stores?
Yeah, you can find
Okay.
vegan ice cream anywhere. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah, it's pretty good.
Hmm. It's harder to tell the difference. Okay, I might have to try that this weekend then, Jennifer. All right. Send me some of your best flavors. Okay, cashew milk. I'm gonna go try that this weekend and get back to you. Cashew milk ice cream. That's on my to-do list for this weekend. Give me some cashew milk vegan ice cream. All right, we got 12 out of 23 participants. Can we get to 15, 19 people to participate in the poll? And then I will end it in the next 30 seconds. All multiple choice, so don't, take too long to answer. And we'll get started with what you came here for, which is Nikki's brilliant advice on how to scale career readiness outside of appointments. All right, perfect. Give it a couple more seconds. Cool. Let's get started. All right, so first question for you, Nikki.
Sure.
Career centers are being asked to do more with less. And I feel like this is a common problem across everybody in higher ed right now. Especially, I just talked to a dean yesterday. They're doing budget cuts,
Yeah.
layoffs. Like, where do you think the traditional model is starting to fall short?
Well, it's not so much of starting to fall short as it is that when I strongly believe that career services is the most important part of the campus because the whole goal for so many students, and let me know in the chat if you agree with this, is getting a job after you graduate, right? It's getting an internship while you are at college, or it's like I said, getting a job after you graduate. That is the goal for so many students. And the thing is that because budgets are being cut, because layoffs are happening, the traditional one-on-one appointment structure just doesn't work as successfully as it once does because the demand when you have for a lot of universities, a very small department, how can we touch so many students? Number one. Number two, a lot of career services offerings are not mandatory. So getting
Right.
students through that door just on a volunteer basis of let me go check it out is really hard. And then I also think there is a branding issue where a
Mhm.
lot of students just feel like it's very corporate. They're scared to walk into career services. They don't know what to expect. And a lot of students feel almost shamed because they don't have a resume. They don't have a
Right.
lot of experience. So they think right off the gate, it's going to be like someone's going to shame me. I feel silly walking in here, right? So we're already working at a deficit before we even get
Mhm.
started, right? But when
Right.
we're looking at where specifically Gen Z, and let's even push it forward to Gen Alpha, meeting them where they're at. The average student, college student, is looking at career services info or questions either on TikTok, on Google, and they're doing that around, I would say, like 3 a.m., right? Is where they're doing it. They're looking at it late at night when we are
Mm.
not there, right? So I think the reason where this topic came up is because if they're not coming in the door traditionally, we have to meet them where they're at. And being able to build on demand content, and we'll get more into this in a little bit, but when I say on demand content, it doesn't always have to mean video, right? It can mean a lot of different things. But I think my goal is to help career services offices figure out ways to meet students where they're at other than a one-on-one appointment because it's becoming increasingly harder and harder and harder just from what the atmosphere is with higher education right now.
Agree with the branding analogy you came. Like, I feel like even myself, when I first got to college, I feel like I was more advanced than just the average student because I did a lot of stuff in high school that prepared me for
Yeah,
college, like similar to like FBLA. I was already doing, professional development work in high school.
right.
But for somebody that isn't, coming to career services is probably actually scary. Like you said, like I need
Yeah,
to be buttoned up before I go to career services. I should know what a resume is before I come to career services. So I want to get your ideas or brainstorm with me here about like how would you go about changing the narrative that career services is actually open to everybody, right?
yeah.
Come in the way you are, right?
Hmm.
There's no requirement to look a certain way or to be prepared a certain way. Come in as you are. We're here to support you and help you and guide you throughout your college career to set you up for success post graduation.
So more so like the branding aspect of it,
Yeah,
right?
the branding aspect of it. Yeah.
So I think there's a couple of things. I think this is where being outside of the office is really important, right? We used to do a lot at St. John's University when I was there. We did a lot of outside the office outings, meaning that we would set up tables outside the office. We would go to a lot of the main hubs that students were hanging out with. And that to me was a really important aspect, right? Because again, we're fighting against the push of getting them through the door. So if we're on campus, let's meet them where they're at. I would literally go hand out physical flyers to students, especially now that it's nice out. I would physically go outside during common hour and be like, hey, you should come to this. Hey, you should come to this. I would also partner with a lot of on campus student organizations. That was a huge, very successful way for me to get students to events was to partner with student organizations instead of fighting with faculty, right? Because I think that can also be a really big struggle is that getting into classrooms can be difficult because
Totally.
faculty doesn't want to basically give up their time with students to bring someone in even if it's for 15 minutes. So what I would essentially do was again work with student organizations to have them more so help me push out and meet students because a student is going to believe a student before a student believes admin who they don't know yet, right? That's just the truth of it. So I did a lot of that. I also, as we'll talk about, I did a lot of on-demand videos and content, and that helped tremendously. I would always say that my goal was to create micro influencers, like almost like career celebrities within our office. And I did a lot of,
Perfect.
yeah, a lot of podcast interviews with our advisors, because what happened was we would then put it up on our website, we would put it on our social media, and then students would recognize us and they would feel more comfortable because they've already seen our face on our website, they've already seen us on social. So it became almost, if we look at the simplest version of marketing, right, and the simplest version of marketing is just building trust. That's it. And that's why I love using the micro influencer analogy of this. Take away your favorite influencer, because I know that that word can be a little like, oh my God, influencers, right? But at the end of the day, the reason why people buy things from influencers is because they trust them and they see them consistently. That's why you press follow, right? On TikTok, on Instagram, it's because you trust them. That idea is what we're trying to translate into career services. The more someone sees us, again, not in a intimidating way, but whether that's an interview, whether it's just a one-on-one interaction, that helps them trust us. And then they're more likely to come into the office, they're more likely to come to events just from seeing us over and over and over again. I also did a very successful initiative. It was called Career Bites, where I literally just set up a table with one of my fellow career advisors. And the whole point of it was we had snacks. And if you wanted to sign up for an appointment or sign up for Handshake, you can do that here. And it was incredible. We got such great feedback and attendance because the lift was so low, right? The lift was so low. And then we were able, again, to take pictures of that, record that, use that as content. So all of those tips right there is a really great way, again, to bring the barrier down. We want to meet them where they're at. And that's both on-demand video blogs, but that's also in-person stuff as well.
That was phenomenal. Um, and now thinking about my college experience,
Yeah.
I considered myself to be a career ambassador without the
Mhm.
title, right? I was always in career services. I had great internships. Students were looking up to me as like a resource for them to help them get internships. And I would go promote career services in my classrooms.
Right,
So I think creating career ambassadors,
right,
because students are in the classroom more than you,
right.
to have them go out and promote career services to their fellow peers is
Hmm.
a great way to drive traffic to career services office or to get them to use the platforms and tools that are readily available for them 24/7.
Yeah,
So,
100%. Yeah.
yep. No, I agree. Oh, that was phenomenal. So, what you talk about, you talk a lot about career centers as like this ecosystem of content. What does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah. So I'll give a really great example of how you can create a career ecosystem. And they actually spoke about this on a different podcast a couple of weeks ago. So I think this will match up perfectly of what we're about to talk about. Okay,
Perfect.
so let's say, and this is a real world example. I knew that students were struggling with LinkedIn. LinkedIn was a really hot topic. Now, I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn has helped me so much professionally, networking wise, but for a lot of students, again, it felt very, very intimidating. And I use something called, and we'll break this down in a little bit, called the 3 a.m. method. And essentially, what the 3 a.m. method is when I'm brainstorming content, this is usually where people get really like hung up on like, how do I start with content? How do I start with an idea, right? I like to think, what is the thing that this person is waking up and struggling with at 3 a.m.? Okay. You're going to write down every single idea that comes into your brain of what that person, your ideal client, your ideal customer, right? What they're struggling with at 3 a.m. And we're going to write all of that down. So for me, when I was trying to come up with my idea, I knew from one-on-one appointments, from just talking with students, looking online, that a repeated question for me was always, how do I get started on LinkedIn? How do I create content on LinkedIn? How do I network on LinkedIn? So that was part of my 3 a.m. questions that I was brainstorming, right? Was LinkedIn. Okay. Put a one in the comments if that makes sense, guys. And then the next part, once I have that idea, Then I'm going to go into an anchor mode. So what that means is that I'm going to
Mm.
pick one method, right? One method that is going to be my anchor to kind of publicize this. So for me, this was doing what I like to call a LinkedIn boot camp. This was an in-person event that I did on campus, and I was able to collaborate with the marketing club, which was able to propel more students to come. We had a over 100 students come to this event. It was really, really successful. So when I was doing the event, right, I also recorded this event. So I had the event live streamed and I had it recorded. So right off the bat there, now we're actually using one thing, right, the event, and now we're
Yep.
using multiple methods to record it. Hang tight because I'm going to show you how to use that to then use it for more content, right? So now I have it recorded. Now I have other people also recording it snippets for social media. When I was in that workshop, at the end of the workshop, one of the prompts that I wanted students to do was to connect with each other and then take a picture of the workshop and post it on LinkedIn. And they were going to tag me, career services, and any other people that they met, right? What this did was now this expanded more people and more students to see career services and the events that we're doing. Okay.
Right.
Once I did that, now we're going to go deeper into the anchor effect, which anchoring just means that we're going to pick the different platforms that we're going to use to take this original idea. So now that I have the video recorded, I'm then able to edit that. And that's going to be where I can send students who missed that workshop. I can now make that a virtual workshop, right? What's cool too is I could also, what I ended up doing as well is I did a version of LinkedIn Bootcamp that was a virtual workshop, like a live workshop. So I had both the virtual workshop and then I had the on-demand version of it where students could watch it. Then from there, I was able to cut that into strips, right? And edit that and create a course from it. Then from there, I was able to take that content and then put that on Instagram and TikTok and things like that. I did that personally, but we were very lucky at St. John's University that we also had an amazing social media manager. So she was able to really push that out as well, which was really great. So I want to give the example, if we go back from all the way to the beginning, that we
Yep.
have the 3 a.m. method, right? Is picking out what the student is struggling with. Then from there, we're going to pick one level, one anchor of what's going to be the thing. Is it going to be a workshop? Is it going to be a virtual workshop? And then from there, we're creating the content as we're doing our jobs anyway, right? That's the goal of it. And then from there, we're using that content. Another really great thing that you could do too, I love using the platform called Descript. It's really fantastic. It edits for you, it does captions for you, it can cut clips for you. I would upload, for instance, LinkedIn Bootcamp, and then it's able to cut the clips for me for any platform, right? It can also make the video into a blog. So then I could take that video and make it into a blog. So from one piece, from one workshop, I was able to make at least 20 pieces of content, both written and on video, just from one workshop. So I think the main goal of this is I think so many people think that they're not a marketer, they don't know social media, they don't know how to do video. And that's not what I want you to think, right? It's literally doing what you do every single day, but just either recording it or using it to your benefit, whether it's a workshop and then you turn that into a blog, or a workshop and you cut it up onto social media. That's how you make it easier, right? That's my whole goal, is to work with you and not against you, because that's where people get really, really overwhelmed.
Man, I think about content the same way, like record one long form piece of content, turn that one piece of content into clips that you can distribute on social,
Yep.
have people that were on the event now talk about it on their social platforms to create this viral loop and drive more traffic to whatever event that you hosted. I agree with that 100%. That's similar to what we're doing right now, right? We
Yeah.
have a long form content with Nikki. We do a webinar recap, post clips on social to drive more traffic to the WriteSea webinars every single month. It's the same process, right? For every
Same
company,
process.
every career services team, the
Yep.
whole nine. That is the
Yeah.
content. So
And
I
also I think what's important too is with career services and advisors, we are the content experts, right? You are the subject
100%.
matter expert. So another really great way to do this is interview your coworkers, right? And again, this does not have to be on video. I've faced a little pushback, right? In terms of some of my coworkers were like, I am not getting on video, Nikki. Like, I am not doing that, which is totally fine. I've done it where it's a podcast, but there's no video, right? And I'm able to just put a picture with their voice next to it, easy. Or I can still have a recording and then go into Descript and make that into a blog. And then
Right.
that could be on there too. But I find that being able to interview other advisors is a really, really great way to, again, build up the branding within career services, but also like your subject matter. Your subject matter experts. So being able to use each other and so everyone's familiar with each other is a really, really great way to build that brand awareness.
Absolutely, I agree. This is great. I think you have a great framework around building content. I think the same way as a marketer, verifying this is actually correct as a marketer. So great, great job there. So for teams that feel stretched thin, right?
Yep.
How can content actually reduce workload instead of adding to it?
Well, I think that that's really what we just spoke about, right?
Talk about, right? Yeah, a little bit,
I
right?
think
Yep.
that the whole goal and what makes my perspective unique, I'll just drop this really quick, is that
Yep.
I have been a social media strategist for over 10 years. I worked at Google. I've had my own business. I've built a really strong platform of over 400,000 followers on TikTok and social media. So when I got into career services as an advisor, I even part of my interview was pitching how can we push, how can we scale, right? That's always the biggest word when it comes to career services is how can we scale. And um and I think that another really great way, if you're looking to figure out how to scale, we did an initiative, and I love using this website called Loom, Loom. So, what's great about Loom? It's similar, I would say, in terms of Zoom, where you share your screen. But what's different about Loom is that you can share your screen and you don't have to be on video. It could either just be your voice or a picture. And essentially, you can record your screen. And I used to use it for resumes. So we would initially have our first meeting with a student. It would be one-on-one appointments. But then what happened is after we would go over their resume, then to make another appointment, right? One-on-one appointments are great, but there's only so many advisors and there's only so many appointments that we can do. So what I suggested is in that second appointment, after we go over that resume and that student revises that resume, they send it back. I do a Loom. I go through with my voice, right? You can hear my voice and it's recorded. I'm screen sharing the resume, all of the things that they still need to complete. What's great about Loom is that it not only records this, but it gives you chapters. So the student can then jump to the different chapters and it gives cliff notes as well. And then you can send the link to the student. The student does not need to have access to Loom. And then essentially you could see that the student watched it and they can ask questions on Loom. So that kind of is a great, not kind of, it is a great way to scale one-on-one, right? And be able to kind of close that loop of keeping on doing these one-on-one appointments when you can use something like Loom. I also use Udily too. It's Yoodli, really great interviewing tool for students as well. And it actually records their interview. And then again, I could watch it and then give feedback as well, which is really phenomenal. So I love using these platforms, not just in terms of creating content, but using these platforms as a way to scale and connect with students.
I love that.
Yeah.
What type of, I think this is very important too. So you've been in this space, you've done the content, you created content. What type of content have you seen resonate with most students right now?
I would say that I love using student generated content. So
Okay.
meaning that we had students again, I wanted to pull we had a lot of really phenomenal students who actually were influencers on social media at St. John's and in other institutions that I worked with. So I would actually have them partner with them to create content as well. So I found that being able, students really resonated with seeing other students on social. So being able to partner with student organizations, being able to partner with student influencers and having them build the content as well, they really, really resonated with that. And again, this is where you have to pay attention to that 3 a.m. method and listening to what students are asking for within your appointments, because that's where the content lives, right? If you're finding that students are really struggling with the tell me about yourself question on an interview, that is content, right? That is where maybe we have a student do a quick video, write a quick blog about that, and then students are going to resonate with that, or you have one of your advisors do that, right? So I think that it's listening. The goal of content, whenever I'm creating content or whenever I'm working with a company with content, the goal is for someone to see that and say, oh my god, I need this. Similar to the fact of like this topic, right? I had so many people who reached out to me being like, I am struggling with this. Thank you so much for coming up with this idea, right? Like, this is something that I'm struggling with. That is the goal when you're coming up with content. And I think that so many people get very discouraged when they put something out and they think, like, oh my God, this failed. No, this is just information, right? This is information that maybe it wasn't as needed as you thought it was. Go back to the drawing board and listen, right? That's all that well reciprocated content is, just being able to listen really well to what people need, and then going back and saying, okay, you know what, this would be a really great topic for a student to cover. Actually, this next topic, I want an advisor to cover this, right? Because this is a little bit deeper. Someone would know this, a subject matter expert would know this a little bit better than a student. So I think that's the biggest thing, is learning to listen and then being able to figure out, should this be student generated or employee generated?
Generated content, because I feel like that's going to resonate with students more because
Yeah,
they're seeing their peers, right, talk about LinkedIn, resumes, career services, maybe transformations from how career services may help them write their first resume to now getting their first internship. Like at the end of the day, I think we resonate more with seeing people that are like us
yeah.
having results that we achieve to have, right? So, how did you go about? I want to dive a little bit deeper into the student generated content. Like, do you schedule meetings with students to do the content? Do they come up with ideas, or you come up with ideas? Like, what does that workflow look like to create that student generated content?
So for LinkedIn Bootcamp, I worked with the marketing club. So we had a meeting essentially of talking about like what the ideas were for content, right? So we
Uh,
had a multitude of different things. We did reels, we did TikTok. So we were going to do 2 reels, 2 TikToks. They were going to do that. And then I created content for Handshake, because Handshake has a really great way of uploading content. They have their own feed. So that's where I took care of that. So I handled some of that stuff where I was making videos, and then they created the flyer. So I found that that was a really great method, because again, students were seeing it twofold, right? They were seeing it from students, right? And they were able to make the video, show me the video. I was like, this is amazing. They posted it, and then I made my own video and I posted it, right? And another really great way, what we did as well, is like in my office, I also had a QR code. So when students came in for one-on-one appointments, I would then have them scan the QR code so they could sign up for the event right then and there, instead of waiting for them to go onto Handshake when I wasn't there. So again, like a multi-layered process of pushing out an event. But I think that LinkedIn Bootcamp example is a really great way to see that, like, you could split it, right? It doesn't always have to be just the students, because sometimes it can be a little intimidating, right? But I think that working with the marketing students, working with the students who are in the business school, because they are already invested in that culture of social media, they're going to be able to put it on their LinkedIn. They're going to be able to put it on their resume. So it's a really great way to, again, to build their portfolio by having them help you with the different events and pushing out things like that.
I like that a lot. Did you come up with this idea yourself, or?
I did, yeah.
To me, nice.
Yeah,
Congrats. That's major.
thanks.
And then one last question about the user the student generated content, are these more so the ambassadors that's helping you create the content, or like how are you finding the students to create the content? I know you said the marketing club, but is there anything else? Any other students that you
I mean,
found?
we had GAs and we had
Okay.
student workers as well. So
Okay.
they were there, but I primarily always worked with more of the business school students. And then
Okay,
again, like
cool.
my majors that I advised were the marketing and communication students. So I was seeing them all of the time because again,
Right.
remember, not every student wants to be on camera. So I
Sure.
found that instead of just like asking random students, like I would look at their resume, and if they were interested or they needed to build up their portfolio, that was a really great way to partner with them to help them build up their portfolio as well.
Nice. So they were excited to build content
100%.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
100%.
Okay. Okay. Is there like a application process that you do to, are you just like
You
anybody
could,
that
you could. I mean, we were in talks of creating like student influencers.
right,
The, the, the thing that you do have to be careful about, and I think that this is where we focused more on the events and working with the marketing club because that was a really great and different student organizations because they wanted to build their awareness as well. When we were trying to build out the student influencers, we were really big on being able to pay students. We didn't want to do an unpaid internship, right? So this is where you just
nice.
have to be careful, and not careful, but like aware of, we don't want to do we want to make sure that students are being compensated, right? So at the
Right.
time, there were talks of figuring out, if is there a budget for this? How can we pay students for this? What does that look like, right? So I think either, if there is no budget, I think either being able to partner with your GAs and your student workers, I think is a really great way to do that. Or partnering with student organizations is another really great way to do that as well.
Nice. That's what I think that's what people needed to hear, right? It's like,
Yeah,
yes, if we don't have the budget, who do we partner with? That's
of
student
course.
ambassadors. You said GAs, and
Yep.
then organizations, of course, they want to build their brand as well,
Yeah.
right? But if you're just trying to get, student influencers, they might be looking for opportunity to make money as well for every reel, every post, whatever the case may be. So you might need a budget to compensate them, to be fair, right? For them doing the work
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
behalf.
Well, I think the big thing with career services is that, again, it's really important to pay students, right? I think that there are so many unpaid opportunities in terms of internships, and we're always for pushing towards equal compensation, right? That's really important. So I think that is just always a conversation. There are ways to work with students if you do not have a budget, but I just think that's always an important conversation to have, is the equity part.
I agree. Nah, this has been great. Do we have any questions in the chat so far? Let me see. Uh,
Yeah, if anyone has any questions in terms of the 3 a.m. method, in terms of
yep.
the anchor method, please let me know in the comments below. I feel like this is where, in the questions, like that's where a lot of great content comes as well. So please feel free
Yeah.
to let me know in the comments if
If
anyone
you
has.
have any questions, put it in the Q&A box, please, so we can keep track of them. But I think I have maybe one or two more questions.
Great.
Um, Let me see. Yeah, we already talked about the 3 a.m. method, the anchor method. I think you walked through how it helps teams stay consistent without feeling overwhelmed for the anchor method. And what's one shift in mindset that can help career centers start thinking more expansively about their role?
I think that I think it's more so, like I said before, meeting students where they're at. I think that students are digesting content and information much differently than students before them, right? So I think that
Mm.
I always had students come to me being like, I saw resume advice on TikTok and I don't know if it's right, or I saw this on Instagram and I don't know if it's right or not. So they're seeing the information and they're using us as a way to confirm that. So I think being able, and that's why I love saying that we, as career services administrators, advisors, we are the content experts, right? We are the micro influencers. Like, that's the way that I want you to start thinking about it. And not in a way that's like, I'm an influencer, buy this, but in a way that you are educating people. You're an educator, right? That's what I want you to think about. So I think that is a really great way to expand your mindset on this. And I would also say, too, when it comes to building content, whether that is video, blog, or any of that, I think that, remember, you have to keep on trying. I always tell people you got to give yourself like 90 days of a process to see if it works or not. Because at first you really don't have that audience. You have to build the audience first. And that takes about 90 days. So being able to look at a 90-day process and say what worked, what didn't work, don't take it personally. Don't think, oh my God, I stink at this, I'm never going to do this again, right? Don't think of it like that. Think of it as, you know what, this didn't work, how can I do it better? Or, you know what, we noticed that doing 30-second videos worked so much better than doing a minute and 30-second videos. So let's make sure that we cut that down. All of this is just information. That's how you have to think about it, is that it's just information that's being fed to you, and then you can build better and faster once you know that.
Love that. That's what I would like to get to. So Lorena Franco said, what are other on-demand ideas? My office has a podcast, resume guides, accessible 24/7, and asynchronous mock interviews.
Mm-hmm. Wait, can you repeat the question? You cut out in the beginning.
So, oh, what are other on-demand ideas besides podcasts, resume guides, and asynchronous mock interviews?
Well, I would say with the podcasts, being able to split that into smaller pieces of content, I think is going to be more successful. I find that the longer form like podcasts are great, but where the magic really happens, and you see this a lot on TikTok, people will just make like fake podcasts just to use those smaller clips, and that's what generates the push and the awareness, right? So I would say if you're doing a longer podcast, meaning longer than 10 minutes, then I would really strategize in being able to build out those clips in shorter increments and use that as on demand content. I would also say, again, what would be really good is bringing in those students and being able to do fun trends that are educational. I think where people go a little astray in terms of doing social media trends, especially in higher ed, is that you have to ask yourself, will someone share this? And what is coming out of this, right? It's all fun and games using a fun trend or sound, but if they're not getting education out of it, if they're not getting something out of it and someone won't share it, right? It's not shareable, then there's really no point in doing it, right? So I think that should be the anchor in any fun content that you really have, is like, how is this shareable? How is this educational, right? So that would be number two. I would say also as well, and using that, that's where those students come in, and being able to work with students to create that fun educational content. I would definitely still be there to kind of guide them, though, of like, if the goal is, let's say, to 3 ways to improve your resume, right? Guide the student, because the student is more of the vessel of creating the content. You are the subject matter expert, right? So making sure that you're creating the outline, the main information to give them, and then they can create the content, right? They can do the heavy lifting of creating the actual content, but you need to be able to give them the information of like what needs to be on there. I think that's where a lot of people miss the mark. The student is not the subject matter expert. You are. So that's really important. And then I would also say Substack is really, really popular right now. I would think about making either a student-led Substack where maybe students are talking about their internship journey, right? That might be a really cool thing, where maybe you pick 4 students and they're doing internships, and you go through the journey and they write like an expert a piece maybe like every week. Or you could do, as the advisor, some type of Substack where students can then look at it and read through it. Blogs are coming back, and I love Substack for that. Like, I think that Substack is a really, really great way. Instead of having to scroll and be on social media, people can actually read and digest it. So I think that's another really cool way to do that as well.
Yes. Can you review some of the biggest challenges you encountered in your early development stages during the early rebranding process?
I would just say it's consistency. I think that's going to be your biggest the biggest hurdle is being motivated when you're not seeing the results right away, right? You have to be consistent. Now, you don't have to be on every platform and you don't have to be posting every day, whether again that is on like more video or blogs, however you want to go about it. It does not have to be every day, but it does have to be consistent. So if that means every Wednesday you are dropping a newsletter, right? Every Wednesday at 9 a.m., then I want you to be consistent with that, not at 9 a.m. every Wednesday that you're going to drop it, right? Or if you're dropping 2 new on demand videos once a month, right? Then make sure that it's the same time every month. So does that make sense, guys? So it's making sure the consistency is there. It doesn't have to be so much volume as it does the consistency part. And I think that's where people get really messed up is they feel like I need to be on every platform and I need to do it all of the time. That is not true. It could just be your website and it could just be a new drop. And then you're putting that on an email so people can, so then students can then watch or read whatever that is. But it should be consistent once a week, twice a week, but keep whatever that consistency is, that volume is, keep that consistent for at least 90 days to see how that works.
What were some of the top resources you found students needed when thinking about the 3 a.m. method? For example, if our bandwidth is small, what is a topic or few to start with that was the highest priority?
Well, I think when it comes to the 3 a.m. method, the thing is you're always more so thinking about the your audience, right? So it's more so if the audience is the student, right? What is the student struggling with? And I think this is where listening comes into handy when it comes to the 3 a.m. method. Listen to what students are talking about, what their concerns are in the advising sessions. That's going to be your main content hub because you're dealing with students every single day, right? They are telling you what their concerns are every single day. If you are in employer relations, right, maybe then it becomes more the employer that is your audience versus the student, right? So then you're asking yourself, what are employers struggling with every single day? When I'm in a one-on-one meeting with them, what are they talking about? And how can I create content from that point of view, right? So it's more so not about what is going to be the highest priority, but I think it's more so what are the comments that I've heard the most, and that's where I'm going to prioritize it. And then again, that's where you're paying attention in those 90 days. If you're finding again that people are asking more questions about LinkedIn, that's giving you information to be like, okay, more content to be about LinkedIn, right? So it's that listening. It's not being afraid to try, but I think again, it's putting on the putting yourself in the shoes of a student and then also listening to what those students are asking, and that's where you're creating the majority of that content and that high priority is by the volume of those questions being asked.
But then, do you have students or staff sign any waivers when being interviewed or recorded before adding to any of your referenced online platforms?
Good question. So I would say it's always a safe way. I know some universities, I know with St. John's, I believe there was a waiver that students signed coming onto the university, I believe, that already stated that they may be in promotional videos and photos right off the bat before they even came on campus. So I think some campuses, and I'm not sure on that, so don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that was the case with that university. But I know some universities do the same thing. So I think that I would just check with your university to see if that's already a case. But I have had waivers that I've had people sign in past clients. So I think it just depends on, I would check with your manager or just the university in itself to see if they already have an umbrella with that, right? Because it might already have been signed and you're fine. So I would just double check, but I would say that always having a waiver on hand, just stating like we may do X, Y, and Z with this content is always a safe way to go.
Yeah, and I think Lalicia asked in the chat, what if student orgs also are struggling with student engagement? That was her question.
Ooh, this is a great question. I think that that is where, if they're struggling with student engagement, that is where being able to be on campus during Common Hour and giving students flyers, having a QR code, being able to put tabling up, that is where I think you're really going to win. And you can even have student orgs partner with you on that tabling, right? So now they're giving out flyers, you're giving out flyers. I really, really think that partnering with student orgs and faculty is the way to go, right? Because I think overall everyone's really struggling with student engagement. So it's meeting students where they're at in terms of Common Hour, in terms of when it's really nice out. I'm like, okay, let's go get some flyers and let's print out some event things that we can get students to get to. Bring my phone and have them scan the QR code, right? I think that bringing back IRL, like in real life, in real life type of scenarios is going
Yeah.
to help student engagement.
Mary Jackson asked, "What are your thoughts on career services offices not having funds for professional development?"
Meaning on the advisor end where there's not professional development for us or for the student. I'm assuming for us, for the advisor is what she meant.
What are your thoughts on career services office not having funds for professional development? I think you're right.
More on the advisor side. Well,
Good morning, advisor. So,
I
yeah,
think
she
that
said for the advisor. Yeah.
for the advisor, that is a very good question and a very real question. So I appreciate that. It's a really difficult time in higher ed right now. I think we can all agree with that. So I think that if your office does not have the funds for professional development, that's where LinkedIn Learning comes in. That's where YouTube. I am a YouTube stan. I love YouTube, and you can learn so much from just YouTubing how to do this, how to create content, how to use. I've learned so much. There's so many great workshops, webinars, all within YouTube. So I think that the reality is that for a lot of higher education institutions, they are cutting funds in terms of professional development, um, which is unfortunate, but it's the reality, right? Like that's where we're currently at. So I like to take it into my own hands and being able to use platforms like LinkedIn Learning and YouTube as a way to consist, and Coursera. I love Coursera. Being able to use that as my way to use my own professional development and skill up on myself. Um, that's kind of how I look at that. But that is a really real question and a really real struggle for a lot of universities right now.
Yes. I think we have one more. Give me one sec.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you have for schools that are online only and don't have those in-person opportunities?
Ooh, good question. Okay, so then I think if it's an online only school, you're already priming students to really focus on that on demand content, right? So I think that you actually have a little bit of an advantage in the fact that students are going to be more open to looking at that on demand content. Um, but I do still think that even if you don't have that in person advantage of being able to meet students where they're at, I still think that's where you're priming advisors to say, like, hey, I have this really, really great 30-second video clip that explains this. Go check this out. Or I just did this really great 15-minute webinar on LinkedIn. Here, check this out, right? So you're able to use that on demand content as a way to more so push the resources versus being able to do tabling. I would say, too, still going to those online events. I think using a chat to be able to be present, right, where students are, and being able to say, hey guys, my name is Nikki. I'm in career services. Feel free to reach out to me when you're in a webinar with students online. I think that's a really great way to do that as well.
I agree. All righty. I think those were all the great questions, by the way. Like phenomenal rapid fire. I think we had like 6 or 7 questions. Nikki, any last words before I wrap up?
I would say that, again, when it comes to doing this and creating content, I think that you want to prepare your mindset to it could be really easy to be like, oh my God, like I don't want to do this. No one's listening. But whenever I feel like I don't want to go on camera or I don't want to record content or no one's listening, I always think to myself, there's going to be one person who is going to be like, I needed to hear this. And that is why I'm creating content, is to say, I'm doing it for this person. So don't make it so much about yourself, right? Make it about the people, the students that are going to be positively affected by your amazing information that you're giving out.
I appreciate that. Post the content, create the content. Your students need the content.
Just press record. That's always what I
Press
tell people. Just
record.
press record.
Press record. I love it. I love it. Well, no, thank you so much, Nikki. This has
Of
been a
course.
phenomenal webinar. I really appreciate you coming on.
Of
If you
course.
don't know about RightSea, we're an all-in-one career services platform. We pride ourselves on our tool encompassing the full suite of career services tools that students need to succeed in their job search, from resume optimization to cover letters to LinkedIn to mock interviews and even salary negotiation. They can track their jobs and track their contacts, professional contacts within one centralized location. We pride ourselves on integrations, and then also having tools that career services needs, such as like our resume template builder, to control, right, what students are how the resume template students are downloading, and then also the resume review. You have the ability to control the scoring mechanisms that contribute to how students are scored when they are creating resumes. So think of RightSea as like a ghost kitchen. We're giving you all these ingredients and you can make your own meal. So if you haven't seen the platform, you haven't been on one of our product showcases, you haven't had a demo, we'd love for you to schedule a demo with us to see the platform in action. You can do that here by scanning the QR code, or I will drop the link in the chat. And then if you are already subscribed to our newsletter, we have a phenomenal mighty but small marketing team that runs a weekly newsletter called The Right Way. Every Thursday, we send it out with a new blog, and then also a newsletter talking about industry news, any upcoming events, a career-related blog that can help you in your work. So yeah, if you haven't subscribed to that, we'll highly recommend you do that. And then last but not least, if at the end of the webinar, we ask that you take, 60 to 90 seconds just to fill out a 5-question survey to get feedback about today's webinar so we can keep producing high-level content, and get high-level guests like Nikki to come on every single month to help you succeed in your role and become the best career services leader or higher education leader possible. And if you want to stay connected, you can follow us on LinkedIn. I post content on there, Instagram, and this is my personal email and cell phone number if you ever want to reach out. Thank you all for joining. This is RightSea Beyond Scaling, Beyond Appointments, using content to expand career, center access, and impact with Nikki Pebbles. Thank you all for joining. We'll see you on the next webinar.
Thank you all.